Welcome to The Debate.
Good to be here.
Today, we are looking in the mirror. Or, well, more accurately, we are looking at the technological and philosophical war being waged over what we actually see in that mirror. We're dissecting a really fascinating collection of source materials focused on the cellulite and skin treatment blog. Specifically, we are analyzing the tension found between a 2025 trend report on aesthetic treatments, the Esthetician's book, and a whole library of lifestyle tags ranging from 12 diets fullness to fitness.
It's a pretty messy intersection, isn't it? I mean, on one side, you have this very confident, almost aggressive push for professional intervention. Lasers, chemical peels, the idea that aging is somehow a biological defect to be corrected. But on the other side, buried in the tags and the book recommendations, you have this quiet, stubborn argument for vitamins, herbs, and activity.
Exactly. And the central question this material really forces us to ask is this. In 2025, is the management of our skin, specifically issues like cellulite and aging, a medical problem best solved by high-precision technology? Or is that entire industry a house of cards suggesting we should just retreat to the safety of holistic lifestyle choices? I represent the view that the source material validates the professional. It paints a picture of biological decline, reduced production of proteins that frankly simply cannot be fixed with a salad.
And I am taking the skeptic's corner today. When I read through the look back and forward article in the source, I don't see progress. I see a graveyard of mistakes. I see treatments that were once considered the absolute gold standard, now labeled as outdated and risky. My argument is that the only durable, safe advice in this text is found in the fitness and diet sections. Basically, everything else is just a trend waiting to be debunked.
Well, let's start with the gatekeepers then. The source material features the Esthetician's book prominently, and it gives a very specific directive, which is simple, ask your esthetician. Now, that word simple does a lot of heavy lifting there.
Oh, it certainly does. It implies that outsourcing your agency is the easiest path. It basically suggests you are incapable of understanding your own skin.
Or it suggests that it's the smartest path. The text explicitly states that these professionals provide valuable advice about which skincare products you ought to add to your daily skincare regimen. This isn't just about selling a facial, it's about navigation. The source mentions ingredients like seaweed-based products used in organic customized facials. To the layperson, seaweed is just, seaweed. But an esthetician understands the specific mineral composition required to target, as the text puts it, wrinkles, spotting, and sagging. You really cannot guess your way to that kind of chemistry.
Right, but let's look at the context of that advice. You are citing a blog that also links to a Promonet store. When the text says ask your esthetician, it is essentially saying ask a salesperson. The source literally links to best-selling items. It creates a feedback loop where the valuable advice is always just buy more things. Contrast that with the other dominant theme in the source, which is 12 diets fullness and water therapy.
Look, water therapy isn't going to fix a broken elastin fiber, though.
No, but it maintains the system that builds the fiber. The tag fullness is so fascinating to me. In the context of 12 diets fullness, it implies satiety. It implies that the body has what it needs. If you are full nutritionally, your skin functions correctly. The whole esthetician model relies on the idea that you are inherently lacking. Lacking collagen, lacking glow, lacking tightness, and you need to purchase that back.
I think you are romanticizing biology a bit here. The source material is actually quite cold about the facts. It states, as you age, your skin faces reduced production of proteins like collagen and elastin. That is a physiological cliff. It happens regardless of how much water you drink or how full you feel. The pro-intervention argument here is that you need an external force to kickstart that engine. The text mentions revitalizing the skin. You cannot revitalize a dormant biological process with just daily nutrition. You need active ingredients. You need the professional products the text alludes to.
But at what cost? And I don't mean money, I mean risk. This is where the look back article becomes pretty damning for your side. The source explicitly lists dermabrasion as an outdated treatment. Why? Because it was too aggressive. It mentions that older lasers cause extensive downtime and, ironically, hyperpigmentation.
That is history, though. That is exactly how science works. We refine.
It is a pattern. The clients who got dermabrasion 10 years ago were told it was the cutting edge. They were told to ask their esthetician, and their esthetician sanded their faces off. Now the source says, oops, we don't do that anymore. Why should we trust the 2025 recommendations? Why are we so incredibly sure that what is being sold today won't be on the outdated list in 2030?
Because the technology described in the 2025 section is fundamentally different. This brings us to the picosecond lasers mentioned in the text. This is a massive leap in physics, not just a marketing spin.
Is it? Or is it just a faster laser?
No, it is completely different physics. The text notes these devices offer superior results with a fraction of the recovery time. Here's the insight we really need to understand why this matters. Older lasers used thermal energy, heat. They essentially burned the skin in a controlled way to force healing. That heat is exactly what caused the hyperpigmentation you're worried about. Picosecond lasers deliver energy so fast, in trillions of a second, that they create a photoacoustic effect. Photoacoustic? Exactly. Think of it like the singer hitting a high note and shattering a glass. The laser uses sound waves and pressure to shatter the pigment or the scar tissue without heating the surrounding skin. That is why the source can claim a fraction of the recovery time. It is precise, it is completely distinct from the outdated methods you were citing. It's not burning, it is remodeling.
Well, photoacoustic sounds very impressive, I'll give you that, but I am looking at the phrase fraction of the recovery time. That implies there is still recovery time, there is still trauma. The source also mentions chemical peels are still in vogue. That is literally burning off the top layer of skin with acid. My overall point is the source material juxtaposes this violence, controlled violence, maybe butt violence, against tags like yoga, activity book, and healthy drinks.
I mean, violence is a pretty strong word for exfoliation.
Is it? The body has a barrier for a reason, and you are dissolving it. The holistic argument found in the fitness and diet tags suggests that if you support the healthy kidney and digestive diet, both explicit tags in the source, mind you, the skin manages itself. The kidney tag is crucial here. It suggests detoxification happens internally. If you rely on a laser to blast away sunspots, you are treating the symptom, not the system. You are painting over the rust on the car instead of fixing the engine.
Fair enough, but I want to pivot to the specific condition mentioned in the title, cellulite. This is where the rubber meets the road. The source groups cellulite with aesthetic treatments. It implies a direct correlation.
Actually, if you look at the tag cloud, cellulite sits right next to fit and fitness.
Spatially, perhaps, but functionally, let's define what cellulite actually is, because the text implies a need for body treatment. A lot of people think it is just fat, but it isn't. Cellulite occurs when subcutaneous fat pushes up through fibrous connective bands called septa. These bands tether the skin down to the muscle, so you get fat pushing up and bands pulling down. That creates the dimpling. It is structural. You can be the fittest person on earth, you can have a pristine, healthy kidney, and still have cellulite because of how your connective tissue is structured.
But you can't deny that body composition plays a massive role there.
It plays a role, but the source discusses aesthetic handling of the body. This implies manipulation. The massage and therapies mentioned in the archives are about mechanically stimulating that tissue. And the lasers we discussed, they stimulate collagen to thicken the skin, which literally hides the cellulite. A diet book cannot thicken your dermis. The 12 Diets fullness might help you lose weight, but it won't change the structural integrity of those fibrous bands. That requires the exact intervention the source advocates for.
See, I disagree with the premise that it needs to be hidden in the first place. But even if we accept that goal, the fitness and activity tags offer a much more permanent solution. Increasing muscle tone, which comes from activity, stretches the skin naturally over the muscle, reducing the appearance of cellulite. And here is the kicker. It doesn't wear off in 6 months like a laser treatment. The source lists video and Amazon KDP books related to fitness. These are educational tools for self-reliance. The aesthetic treatment is a rental. The fitness lifestyle is ownership.
Ownership is great, but let's be realistic about the natural argument. You seem to think the industry is pushing for an artificial look, but the 2025 trend report in the source explicitly states the shift is toward minimally invasive, natural-looking enhancements.
Natural looking, possibly the most deceptive phrase in the English language.
Come on, I think it shows responsiveness. The industry admits that the frozen Botox look or the windblown facelift of the past was a mistake. They are using technology to mimic nature. The source talks about revitalizing. It isn't about changing who you are, it is about returning the skin to a state where it functioned better, before the damage caused by the elements that the text references took hold.
Natural looking is an admission of guilt. It is the industry saying, we know we made everyone look like aliens for the last 10 years, so now we will use our picosecond lasers to make you look like you haven't had a procedure. But you have had a procedure. True natural, the state referenced by the herbs and botanical tags, is accepting the aging process while maintaining health. When the outcome is natural looking, it is a simulation of health.
But the source lists preventive as a tag. Is it not preventive to use a laser to stimulate collagen before it collapses? The text literally talks about keeping aging at bay.
No, that is preemptive. Prevention is sun protection, which the text mentions. Prevention is nutrition. Prevention is not firing a laser beam into your face at 25 so you don't look 30 when you are 30. That is pathologizing the human condition. And looking at the outdated list again, what if the preventive laser of 2025 turns out to cause microscarring that looks terrible in 2035? The skeptic's path eating the 12 diets fullness never has a side effect of future regret.
I feel like you are completely ignoring the seaweed element here. The source brings up Spa Rockaway and seaweed-based products. This bridges the gap perfectly. It is a natural ingredient, botanical, from the ocean, but applied with professional expertise. It isn't high-tech laser warfare, it is just chemistry. Why is that a commercial trap and not just smart hygiene?
Because of the context. It is a customized facial. It is a service you have to keep paying for. If I buy a book on herbs and learn that chamomile soothes inflammation, I know that forever. I can grow chamomile. If I go to the spa for the seaweed complex, I am dependent on the esthetician. The source is structured to create dependency. The esthetician's book is a manual for the provider, sure, but for the consumer, it's really just a manual on how to be a good customer.
I see it as a manual on how to be an informed patient. And I use the word patient deliberately. The source mentions brown sunspots. That is UV damage. That is a medical reality. The text says these require intervention. I mean, you literally cannot meditate away a sunspot.
You can prevent it with a hat.
But once it is there, the source is addressing the reality of now, a look back and forward. It deals with the damage already done. The advocate's position is that we have tools, incredible, fast, precise tools, to fix that damage. To refuse them because of a philosophical preference for herbs is to deny the efficacy of modern science. If I have an infection, I take antibiotics. If I have sun damage, I use a laser. Why is one acceptable and the other vanity?
Because one saves your life and the other saves your vanity. And frankly, the brown sunspot is a cosmetic issue, not a health crisis. The industry, and this text honestly, tries to blur that line. They want you to feel that a spot on your hand is a failure of your regimen. They want you to feel that sagging is a disease state.
It is a failure of protection which can be corrected. The text argues that we have the means to correct it. Why live with the damage if you don't have to? The source mentions minimal downtime. It has never been easier to hit reset.
Reset implies you go back to zero, but you don't. You go forward with scar tissue, however microscopic, and you go forward with a lighter wallet. I just returned to the tags. Activity book, fit, healthy drinks. These are things that build a human being. Lasers and chemical peels are things that polish a surface. I think the source material, perhaps unintentionally, reveals that the polished surface is fragile. It needs constant updating. The outdated list proves that.
But the outdated list also proves that we are learning. We are getting better. We aren't using the same tools we used in 1990. We are using tools that respect the skin's biology, tools that stimulate the body's own repair mechanisms. That is what the Picosecond laser does. It tells the body, repair here. It is a partnership with biology, not a domination of it.
A partnership where one partner holds a high-powered beam of energy? Call me skeptical.
Well, we are nearing the end of our analysis. The text presents a bifurcation, really. The clinic or the kitchen.
I like that. The clinic or the kitchen.
In summarizing the case for the clinic, from my position, I return to the precision of 2025. The source material documents a clear evolution. We have moved from the outdated brute force of dermabrasion to the elegant physics of picosecond lasers. We have moved from generic creams to customized protocols involving specific biological agents like seaweed. The text validates the esthetician not just as a seller, but as a necessary partner in keeping aging at bay. The biological reality of protein loss demands an external solution, and this source says that solution is ready and waiting.
And in summarizing the case for the kitchen, the skeptic's view, I look at the volatility of that so-called evolution. The source proves that the experts are constantly correcting their own mistakes. Today's miracle is tomorrow's outdated risk. The only elements in this text that have never been listed as harmful or outdated are the references to fitness, diets, vitamins, and water. The natural-looking trend is just the industry trying to catch up to what the holistic lifestyle produces for free. The safest bet is to trust the body's internal systems, supported by the fullness and activity described in the tags.
It really comes down to a philosophy of control. My side believes we can and should control the aging process through technology.
And my side believes that the attempt to control it often causes more damage than the aging itself.
A fair distinction. Whether you choose to download the esthetician's book and book that laser appointment, or stick to the 12 diets and a heavy dose of skepticism, the source material lays out the menu.
Indeed. Just make sure you know what you're ordering.
Thank you for joining the debate.